Hey guys. Um Hope everybody is doing well. Um Happy Easter to everyone. Um to a lot of you, I would say everyone. Happy Easter to everyone. I actually wanted to come on here and talk about some lyrics that I wrote today after listening to my significant other's 2-hour interview she did on the radio station. It was awesome, unbelievable. But the lyrics I'm going to write to you all hits home for really what I was given later in my life, not knowing what the word fate meant. Obviously, nobody's going to know the word fate because I feel like being young, as you know, we all grow over time. The word fate, a lot of people take, or as a definition and action of fate, a lot of people think of death, thinking it was their own fate to die, or it was somebody's fate to die alone. But I will say 100 times out of 10, that's the thing is sometimes I feel like I think a lot of places around the world have, I mean, they obviously all have different mottos of the state you're driving through. Um, One of those mottos that often, and I'm definitely not scared of these mottos that are put on with other states. So like Maine's motto is, I feel, more appropriate and more believable, and sums up Maine pretty well compared to New Hampshire, because New Hampshire's motto is what is it, live or die or something like that, or no, live, what is it, live free or die, that's what it is, live free or die, which that one is a bit dark. I think a lot of people would state that as a dark motto for a state because to really state in the book that I've been reading, no, the nation now is being fed with either being feared, whereas love really is another word of being fearless. Because when when we hear things off of media, we all fear that, things that happen negatively, hatefully, physically that are wrong, it brings us, a lot of that, maybe not pain, maybe, but it talks about a nation being in harmony, being in peace with one another, channeling energy, and channeling your many communication skills with people that support you and that you support yourself and that you love being around, basically your community. um but I never knew what a motto was at all. But a motto for me is more like the New Hampshire one. Just it's the New Hampshire motto for me is more of like a, you don't survive, you die. But that's kind of how I feel about the New Hampshire motto is, you can be alive if you survive, but eventually, or really, but if you don't survive, you die. But it's definitely more of like a modern warfare motto, but it actually has to do with the Revolutionary War. So that motto in New Hampshire dates back to the American Revolutionary War, which is, there is a big, um I will say it is unfortunately, a motto that I find quite dark, and really, and those who we love, that do die on the front line or wherever, that we pay respect to in honor for their services every day. For me, mottos like that, you know, they did all both those things. They survived, but some didn't survive. Because people, that's the thing. The odds of them not going into war will be living free. But, I mean, even if you are in a war, or you're fighting, with the country, for your country, living free and die or die is that, I feel like, big war based motto that doesn't just cover New Hampshire, but they all, even Viking culture says, if somebody declares war, you have to be ready for it. I mean, at least that's what Thor, or actually Odin, said in the first Thor movie, where he said, if you declare war, you have to, or if somebody declares war, you have to be ready for it. And he was referencing, if a bad guy, or like say a bad army of undead soldiers, or a bad guy from the Thor films declared war, Asgard has to be prepared and ready for it. But just like in Middle Age history, they followed the same motto: is war is huge, and the only way we can live or die is be ready, is be prepared. We don't need to live agonizing, slow. I mean, people say life is short. Life can be short, but it's what you make of it. I'm usually always careful when I use the word fate, because fate doesn't always just mean death, but people like to use that word especially from what brings a family together. But I would say, if you I like to use the word grief. I mean, the thing is, sometimes when there is a death in the family, family does come together. Most times family do go come together for a celebration of life well lived for somebody in your family that you are close to or may not be close to. But if you are expecting or expressing fate to those who are still alive, I hate to say it, but to me it's a sin, because you can still come out on top with nothing at all. Meaning, if you don't have money, you still can be the person you are today. And it's not in the matter of finances, but skill with finances, or really skill and also wealth, are good skills to have. Wealth is earned, where skill is comes organically, it comes naturally. But I wrote lyrics, um and I titled it The Breaking. And the breaking for me is more of it, and it covers everything from breaking of really of how people say, because I know I've had family post this on social media, that fate, love, trust all brings a family together. I do agree. Love, trust, all those other words bring family together. But if you use the context of fate, unfortunately, fate is not one of those words that brings a family, a friendship, or relationship together, because it can also aggravate, and freaking, as I said, it can turn into a curse. It can turn into dark. And I figured that out pretty later on in my life, because I had to go back and state, well, and this was actually a time, actually recently, I thought in the shower, I said, with what I'm doing myself that isn't helping people, what is holding me myself back from caring about myself and other people? And the word that my family often will use is fate. I don't want to live a hateful life. I don't want to live a world. I don't want to start a family and have fate as a big definer in my family, cuz for me, if I have that, that's not a family. I'm allowing fate as an element in my family, and that is something I want to discriminate so much. Ball it up or tear it into small pieces and put it in the damn trash. But unfortunately, it's not just family, friend, it's also nationwide. It's national that fate is allowed to be in a society where we should all be in harmony, peace, and love people, through culture, through through support, grief. I feel like, I would say fate is is often a phrase. I mean, it's also a phrase and an action where those I feel like, who believe so much in faith and make it a cultural message for other nations, or a cultural impact for a group or for a family. Often I feel like that's a cult. That's not a family. That's a group of those who possess other people into believing in fate, cursing them with fate. But I wrote this today as being a message and being a song that I'm actually writing about myself. But the thing that I wrote, and I just edited it, but it is going to be a song, but it has to do with fate, and really with my I did not mention any names or any private information in here, but it's the way that I've expressed the last couple years of my life. I would say back in probably right. I would say I started noticing this definitely around 2023. Actually, maybe 2024, but it's called The Breaking. The song's called The Breaking. Um but it says, this is for the pain, the lies telling me I have to live life this way. I can't predict when bad weather stops. The shame, the the shame emptying water out of buckets contained by being shamed by their own actions. My mom and my son not being able to walk away. Also, um, no one will ever tell me to have fate from any sides regarding to reunite. We shouldn't have to worry about losing who we have, rather than possibly losing something by choice, and not compromise whoever is around you daily. Tell them to bring in the horse from the rain. It enclosures anybody who can't escape with losing something held deeply in your heart, also thriving, holding something that lives on forever. Dig yourself out of somewhere, start there, and reconnect with yourself while thinking about how others would feel. Ask them to be open rather than telling them to state you facts, receiving and listening.